Hello students, today our topic is War between wars. This is the second part, it is lecture number 2. In our previous session, we have done in this chapter that what are the reasons for world wars, what is the immediate cause of the world war, and we also done that which group they won. We knew that Central powers and Allied powers they were fought. Central powers were defeated by the Allied powers. That we have done in our previous session. Let us see in this session. As we know that Russia. In our previous session we have done that Russia withdrawn from World War. Russia withdrawn from World War. Why? Because of civil war. Now you please remember, it's a very important question. They may ask for 1 mark or 2 mark question. Russia withdrawn from World War I because of the civil war. What is civil war? Civil war means internal war in a country. Internal war in a country. So in a country there was internal war, internal disturbances were going on. Hence Russian soldiers were out. Russian soldiers were withdrawn this World War. Then after the World War, after the World War, treaty was held. After the World War means it was World War I was completed in 1918 officially. Officially it was completed in 1918. So after the war, the victorious countries wanted to punish defeated countries. The victorious countries wanted to impose most of the penalties on the defeated countries. Allied countries imposed that they said that Germany is the responsible for World War. Germany became responsible for World War. So it's very important point. Germany became responsible for World War I. They may ask which country is responsible for World War, because Germans were encouraged the remaining countries to participate in the war, so that Germany became responsible for World War I. So that these victorious countries wanted to punish, so that one treaty was held. The treaty name is Treaty of Versailles. It may be question comes for 2 marks or 4 marks. What are the terms and conditions of the Treaty of Versailles? You might have aware that if any war, the war was going on between the countries or war was concluded. So whenever the war is concluded, usually the treaties will be happened. Treaties means agreement. Agreement will be made between the countries. Here also agreement was made. That agreement was made in the Versailles. France. So that this became a Treaty of Versailles. Let us see the points of the Treaty of Versailles. Yeah, first point is Allied imposed harsh terms and conditions. Conditions on defeated nations, on defeated countries. So for that purpose, this Treaty of Versailles was held. Yeah. Next, how many countries were attended? 32 nations were attended. 32 nations attended. Only the victorious countries were attended. Defeated countries were not invited. Not invited. Russia also not invited. Why Russia was not invited? Russia was withdrawn from the World War I. In middle of the World War, it was dropped. It was withdrawn. So that Russia also not invited for this Treaty of Versailles. Yeah, see what are the penalties they have done. See penalties. First of all, territorial penalties. Territorial conditions. Territorial conditions. First one, territorial conditions. Under the territorial conditions, Germany lost its territories, its African territories to victorious. So Germany became responsible for World War. Hence, Germany lost its colonies. Germany lost its colonies, or Germany lost African territories to victorious. So those who won in World War, they occupied Germany's colony in Africa. In Africa, most of the German colonies were occupied. Next, second point. This is the first one. Second point, Alsace-Lorraine gave back to France. Sir, what was this Alsace-Lorraine? So we have to go back to the history. In 1870, Bismarck was occupied this Alsace-Lorraine from France. In 1870, Bismarck, he was united the Germany. In 1870, Bismarck, he was occupied the Alsace-Lorraine. Okay, so that Alsace-Lorraine were given back to France now. So these are the territorial conditions. Next, military conditions. Military conditions. They imposed penalties on Germany. These penalties are military penalties. Second penalty. First point in the military conditions is their army was reduced from 9 lakh to 1 lakh. Army reduced. Reduced means decreased. Reduced from 9 lakhs to just 1 lakh. So Germany, they forced Germany to have only 1 lakh soldiers. Next, no submarines. They were not accepted to hold any submarines. And just a dozen torpedo missiles. They restricted to 12 or dozen means 12. So dozen torpedo missiles and no submarines need to be held, and army reduced it to 9 lakh to 1 lakh. So these are the few military sanctions. And let us see certain economic sanctions also. Economic sanction means Germany have to pay war indemnity. War indemnity means insurance. Or it is also called as damage fund. Next one is economic sanctions or economic conditions. What are the economic conditions? Under economic conditions, they have to pay 6 billion euros. 6 billion pounds. This is not euro. 6 billion pounds they have to pay as war indemnity. War indemnity as insurance. They have to pay war indemnity or insurance. And Germany lost its colonies. Most of the colonies they lost. These are the punishments towards to Germany. More punishments, harsh punishments on Germany, because Germany is the responsible for World War I. First one is 32 nations were attended. Next, Allied powers imposed harsh conditions on them. Victorious countries were invited. Defeated countries were not invited. Russia was not invited. Penalties on Germany. Germany lost their territories or its colonies in Africa. So Germany was ruled certain African. Example, Tanganyika. Now we are calling as Tanzania. Tanzania was before World War I. It was under the control of Germany. But after the war, it has to be loose. After the war, it was lost. Then military sanctions or military conditions. Their military was reduced 9 lakh to 1 lakh. No submarines were accepted, and not more than dozen torpedo missiles were not accepted. and apart from this, they have to pay 6 billion pound, 6 billion pound as a war indemnity or insurance. It is called as insurance, war damage, fund for the war damage. It is related to Germany. Then what about the Austria? Austria also defeated now. Austria-Hungary divided. Austria-Hungary divided into new nations. Before World War One, Austria-Hungary. That's what we told. Austro-Hungary. Austro-Hungary means Austria-Hungary was under control of one king. So after the World War, Austro-Hungarian divided into new nations. Next, Turkey we called as Ottoman Empire. Ottoman Empire lost its colonies in Africa. In Africa also, Ottoman Turkey Empire, they lost their colonies. Next, Turkey also same. So Ottoman Empire also we known as Turkey. This was divided into different place, and Germany Empire was broken into different small principalities. Ottoman Empire became republic. Germany became democratic republic means during World War it was under the control of king, but after the World War republic was set up. Germany democratic republic was set up. Austria it was a separate country, and Hungary it became separate country. Let us take, I said new nations were divided into new nations. What are the new countries? Were formed? Austria was a new country. Hungary was a new country. Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia, Finland, Yugoslavia, Herzegovina, Serbia, Lithuania, etc. So these are new countries. Once upon a time, these countries are under the control of Austria, Hungary, and Turkey, Turkey and Germany. But now these all countries became independent nations. Separate nations were formed. So due to that, we understand that most of the new countries were formed. So due to this, these are the examples of the new countries. Austria, Hungary, Czechoslovakia. So these are also decided in the Treaty of Versailles. So Treaty of Versailles completely humiliated the Germans. Humiliated the Germans. Means, Germans were feeling very bad. Example, you see, if we lost against Pakistan in cricket match, we feel very bad. If we lost with any other country, we will also feel very bad. So that in a sport or game we lose, we will feel very bad. Why not the Germans were lost in the World War? They are paying huge money and they lost their territories, they lost their colonies, they lost everything. So that this was humiliated the Germans. Treaty of Versailles humiliated the German. Humiliated means bad. It was they felt very sad and very bad, and they wanted to take revenge. On the defeat of the World War. So that they are waiting for a situation, they are waiting for a war. So this humiliation also led for one of the reason for the World War II. So most of the Germans were humiliated. This humiliation also one of the reason for the World War II. Let us see, in Treaty of Versailles they also discussed. In the Treaty of Versailles they also discussed that about one international organization. So after the discussion about international organization, they have set up one international organization to prevent wars and preserve peace. So what is that international organization? Let us see that international organization, how that international organization was worked, it was fulfilled or not. Let us see. That is League of Nations. That international organization is League of Nations. League of Nations. League of Nations was founded in 1920. Just now I told to you, in Treaty of Versailles, they clearly discussed, in the Treaty of Versailles, they clearly discussed about the international organization. So that international organization is League of Nations. So who was founded? It was founded by Woodrow Wilson. It was founded by Woodrow Wilson. Who was Woodrow Wilson? Woodrow Wilson was President of USA. Woodrow Wilson was President of USA. He was founder of this League of Nations. So what are these main aims? The main aims is prevent wars. Prevent wars. Prevent wars. Because due to the World War I, 10 million people were died. Due to the World War I, 10 million people were died and 75,000 Indians also died. India was not there in the World War, but 75,000 Indians were died because Britishers sent our soldiers. Our soldiers are worked in a British army, so that Indians were sent to other countries to participate in World War I. Hence 75,000 Indians also died in World War I. So prevent wars, preserve peace, next uphold human rights or settle the disputes. Disputes means what? Disputes means fightings, wars. Disputes through how they can settle the disputes? Through discussions. Or negotiations. League of Nations was founded in 1920 by Woodrow Wilson, President of USA. Aim: prevent wars, preserve peace, settle the disputes through discussions. So this was the main aim. But this League of Nations also failed. To prevent the wars. This League of Nations also failed to prevent the wars. Hence, Second World War came. So this is about League of Nations. Okay. Next, in our discussion, these discussions and before session, we have done that Russia was withdrawn from World War. And I wrote a reason that Russia was withdrawn from World War I because of the internal war or because of the civil war, I said. So what is civil war? What is internal war? Why the war has happened? Let us see. Yeah, Russia, now let us see about Russia. Russia was one of the largest country. It was called as Euro-Asia power. Russia was called as Euro-Asia power. Sir, why it was called as Euro-Asia power? Because some part of Russia also fall in Europe continent and major part of the Russia falls in Asia continent. Hence it also called as Eurasia. Euro plus Asia means Europe and Asia. Most of the Russia is in Asia continent and little part of Russia also there in Euro. Hence it is called as Euro-Asia power. Yeah, Russia, the main occupation was agriculture. Most of the Russian peasants, they do agriculture. And most of the lands, peasants, they do not have any lands. Peasants normally, they do not have any lands in Russia. So that there was a struggle between. So there was a struggle between lords and peasants. So there was a struggle between lords and peasants for the land purpose. Peasants, they do not have any land. They paid rent. They pay rent to the landlords, and there was a struggle between the landlords and the peasants. Most of the majority of the Russians, 85% of the Russians they depends upon agriculture. And Russia means, what is Russia? Russia means nowadays, Russia means Tajikistan. Russia means nowadays Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, okay, Poland, parts of Poland, Georgia, Armenia, Estonia, Azerbaijan, okay, many of the countries. Many of now newly formed countries, or Russia was such a very big, it was very big country. It's a very big country, and Tajikistan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Georgia, Azerbaijan, okay, Armenia, some parts of Poland also part of Russia. So that was very big, and it was a third largest populated country those time. Russia was third largest populated country those time. But whenever they are participating in the World War, the Russia became biggest loser. Russia became biggest loser of civilians, biggest loser of military and civilians. Yeah. So means most of the Russian soldiers were died in the war. Most of the Russian civilians were died in the war. Approximately 7 million soldiers plus 3 million civilians. That means 10 million people they lost. Russia lost 10 million people. And moreover, Russia supplied food. Russia supplied food to the soldiers. So due to this, there was a food shortage. Shortage of food. Why shortage of food? Because Russian king sent food supplies to the soldiers. Whenever most food was going towards the war purpose, there was a shortage of food. Agricultural people, they are very hungry, and they started to demand for against of this war. We doesn't want war. We want peace. We want bread. We want to eat something, but there is nothing to eat. So that's what a revolution was started in Russia. I repeat, Russia is also called as Eurasia power. Many people they work in agriculture, and the peasants they do not have any land, and landlords land they took rent, and there was a certain struggles there between the peasants and the landlords. Russia means Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and many part of the places were considered as Russia, and biggest loser of military and civilian. 7 million military and 3 million civilians were died. It is not given in the textbook this data. And there was a food supplies, so food was supplied to the soldiers. So these food supplies led to scarcity of the food supplies in the countrywide. Hence the movement was started. The Russian rulers were called as Tsars. T silent word. Tsar. Russian rulers was called as Tsar. At the time, Nicholas II. So George Nicholas II. Nicholas II was the Tsar. Tsar Nicholas II was the king at the time, and there was suddenly one movement was started. Suddenly one revolution was broke out against of this war. So the common people, what they believe, common people they want that we want food. They doesn't want any war. Yeah. In Russia, most probably 3 times revolution was broke out, 3 times. But we have to learn only, as per the textbook, we have to learn only twice. In NCRT, they given about the 3 wars. First in 1905 revolution. First time 1905 revolution broke out, but it is not given textbook. So we are no need to learn about that revolution. Next, second revolution is February revolution or March revolution. March 1917 revolution. So what was happened? On 8th March, it's a very important date, on 8th March, women started procession. On 8th March 1917, 8th March is Women's Day, International Women's Day. On 8th March, women's started a procession. They started a procession. Procession means rally. They started a procession, and they're demanding that peace and bread. So it's a very, very important. What they want? They want only peace and bread. One procession was going on 8th March 1917. On the day International Women's Day was going on. On the day was International Women's Day. So the procession was started. They are giving slogans for peace and bread. We doesn't want war. We want peace and bread. Yeah. Then first women's were started. women's after, workers were joined, workers joined. Yeah, whenever workers joined, it became very huge. It became very huge. It was very crowdy, most crowded. Yeah, king was ordered. Okay, king ordered to suppress the mob. So king was ordered to suppress the mob. King was ordered to the soldiers. King was ordered to the soldiers to suppress this mob, but later soldiers also joined it. Soldiers also joined it. Soldiers also joined it, and finally king was fled away. He was left the throne. Tsar Nicholas was fled away. So this revolution is known as March Revolution. March 1917 revolution. Because of this, most of the soldiers also joined to the workers and women. Then king, he do not have any option except to flee. He was fled away. Due to this revolution, Russia withdrawn from World War I. Due to this revolution, Russia withdrawn from World War. So this is March Revolution. This is March Revolution. Let us see, another revolution also took place. So that another revolution is October 1917 revolution. October 1917 revolution. Sir, what is October 1917 revolution? Whenever Tsar was left, after the Tsar, whenever Tsar was left, liberals and aristocrats. Liberals means a group of members. Liberals and aristocrats, they ruled Russia. They set up a provisional government. Provisional government. When provisional government was set up. So this provisional government was set up by liberals and aristocrats. So these liberals and aristocrats wanted to send the soldiers again into World War. So they wanted to liberals, aristocrats wanted to send soldiers again in World War I. We know that Russian soldiers came back from the World War, but now these provisional government members again they wanted to send these soldiers into World War. So this was opposed by most of the people. So these people means against of this provisional government decision. Here women's, or I can say that peasants means farmers. Peasants plus workers plus soldiers. They formed as councils. These councils also called as Soviets. I repeat, provisional government wanted to send the soldiers again into World War, but peasants, workers, soldiers, they doesn't want to participate in war. Hence, they formed as a council, group of people. This council also called as Soviets. Yeah. This revolution was. It is not a sudden revolution. It was completely a planned revolution. Yeah, 1917 revolution was led by Lenin. Very important. 1917 revolution, October 1917. You remember that? October 1917 revolution led by Lenin, Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, one of the great leader. So Lenin was the leader of Bolshevik party. Yeah, when Lenin came to Russia, Lenin was promising the people. What he was promising? First, Lenin promises. What Lenin promising? First one, control over land redistribution. First one is land redistribution. Land redistribution. To whom? Land redistribution to whom? Those who do not have land. For them, Lenin says that I will redistribute the land. Those who do not have land, I will redistribute the land. So that is the land redistribution to poor. Land redistribution to poor. Second one is nationalization of banks. Nationalization of banks and industries. Nationalization of banks and industries. So whatever the banks and whatever the industries were there, these banks and industries were completely under the control of government, not under the private. Sir, why the nationalization is important? Example, you are having a bank, you are getting profits. Whenever you are getting profit, you will enjoy the profits. But whenever the bank under the control of the government will be enjoy. Government enjoy means automatically the people are enjoying now. Yeah, whenever the profits will be come to the government will be used for the fund, used for the profits for the development, setting of school, setting of colleges, roads, hospitals, education, etc. So that's what nationalization of banks and industries was done. And third one is immediate and unconditional peace. Immediate and unconditional peace. Immediate and unconditional peace. He said that I doesn't want war. I doesn't want any war. I want only immediate and unconditional peace. So that these promises were attracted the people. These promises were attract the people. Then Soviets supported Lenin. Soviets supported Lenin. Finally, the Bolshevik party. Finally, Bolshevik party became RCP. RCP, not RCB. RCP means Russian Communist Party. Bolshevik party also known as Russian Communist Party. I repeat, Soviets supported Lenin because Lenin said that Lenin was promised for land redistribution to the poor, nationalization of banks and industries, immediate and unconditional peace, and Soviets supported. Because of this, Soviets were supported. Right? Yeah. Whenever Soviets were supported, Lenin took the Russia under the control. Took the Russia under the control, and completely provisional government was formed. Provisional government was completely dissolved. I repeat, provisional government was dissolved. After the dissolve, Lenin became a leader. So does the Lenin fulfill his promises or not? Let us see. Does Lenin fulfill his promises or not? Let us see. First promise, land was redistributed. Land given to peasants. Okay. Nationalization also done. Nationalization of banks and is also done. And the third one is immediate and unconditional peace was not restored. Peace was not restored. Sir, why peace was not restored? Lenin, what he gave? 3 promises gave. First promise completed, second promise completed, but third promise was not completed because some of the countries are attacking on Russia. Those countries are Britain, France, US, Japan. Britain, France, US, Japan attacking on Russia. Britain, France, US attacking on Russia. Sir, why these countries are attacking on Russia? Because these countries are anti-communist countries. This is Russia became communist party. No, Russia became communist country. They are fearing that similar revolution may take place in the Britain, France, US, Japan. Similarly, the people in Britain, France, US also they revolt against their rulers. It may be very difficult. So that they wanted to dissolve this communist government. So that's what Britain, France, US, Japan they are attacking on Russia. But finally, 1920, Lenin defeated all. Lenin defeated all countries. Not directly, indirectly. Indirectly, the countries are encouraging anti towards the Lenin. The countries are sending bombs, sending funds to make disturbances in Russia. So that in 1920 Lenin was controlled this all and finally he was restored. Yeah, after that Lenin was established USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. I repeat, 1922. In 1922, USSR, Union Soviet Socialistic Republic was set up in 1922. 1922, and finally Lenin was died. Lenin died in 1924. Lenin died in 1924. After the Lenin, Stalin came. After the Lenin, Stalin came. When Stalin came, he introduced two policies. Stalin policies. First one, Stalin policy is twin policy. Stalin introduced a twin policy. First one is rapid industrialization. They wanted to make Russia as a industrialization. Then second one is collectivization. Collectivization means all the group of people, they have to do agriculture in a land and they have to share equally the yield. For example, 100 acres of the land is there. 100 members of the villages have to work in the farm, okay, and the share also equally distributed. So this is the policy called collectivization. Stalin introduced 5-year plans. Stalin introduced 5-year plans in 1928. I repeat, Stalin introduced 5-year plans in 1928. So this is our topic. In this topic we have learned that how February Revolution broke and February March. How October Revolution was broke and what are the promises of Lenin. Thus Lenin was fulfilled his promises or not, and how anti-communist countries are attacking on Russia, and how Lenin was controlled them. After the death of Lenin, who came to power in Russia, we have done. So that is Stalin came. So this is our topic, lecture number 2.